get yourself to blame. Hi there guys, Teacher Hafa here, the tutor of teachers. Guys, today I wanted to talk to you a little about how to give pronunciation corrections. How do you correct your students on pronunciation? Something extremely important for the process. Don't forget that every kind of correction is a feedback, and a feedback is positioning. So you should really watch out for how you give the feedback to your students, and what's the format, what's the time. First of all, I would like to raise a question here. What's the difference between accent and pronunciation? Something important to reflect. Let's reflect on the concepts basically here. Pronunciation is how you give intonation to a word, okay? And for example, you say the word beautiful. Beautiful. That's the intonation. Okay, that's the pronunciation of the word. You don't say beautiful, you don't say beautiful. Beautiful. If you go to Poland or to the US and you say, wow, beautiful, beautiful, they will say, what? What's beautiful? I'm sorry, I don't get it. So, something extremely important is to remind the students that accent is different from pronunciation. You should have a natural accent. The accent is from your language. Okay, you don't have to mimic somebody's accent. You do not have to talk as a British person so the person can understand you. So not necessarily at all. My British sucks. Anyhow, very important for the students to know this distinction. You know, but have you told the student about the distinction? So the accent is the variation of the language. It's how, in a certain area or place, they pronounce the language, how you sing the language. For example, the accent from Scotland, it's completely different from the accent from the south of the USA when people talk a little bit like that. But could you help me down here? You sing the language differently. But that doesn't mean that they pronounce beautiful differently. Okay, got it? Made the distinction. All right, so let's see about the moment. What moment do I give pronunciation corrections? Guys, as every kind of corrections, very important. Think about the process. Think about the goal of this correction. So, corrections in general has a very important task, which is what they are trying not to do. And the main goal of the pronunciation not to do is to interrupt the student. So you should never interrupt your student just because they mispronounced a word. Okay, something important. You need to always let them focus on the message. Let them make their mistakes. It's safe. You told them. Remember, you told them to make more mistakes. Remember in the first few videos here in the channel, the student who makes the most mistakes learns the most for the simple fact that they focus on communication. They focus on the message, on the situation, and when I'm gonna use it. It's almost like driving. You want the person to get the car moving. Okay, you get on the curb a couple of times. It's natural, you know. You're not gonna do that after 10 years of driving. Let your students make his or her mistakes. Let them, communicate the best way possible, the best way they can, and then in the proper moment, you stop. You give corrections. You give the pronunciation corrections. So, guys, a couple of tips here I got for you for this matter is that ask your students to record themselves on regular basis. Okay, something extremely important is for them to listen themselves. In recordings, this could be a great teacher. They're not even paying for it. So the extra class recordings, and I mean in terms of audio, in terms of the image, how they are expressing themselves. And these they can observe the pauses that they get, the and some maybe the intonation. They are not giving the proper intonation of phrases. It's what I call the sweeping communication. Na 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 na. Na, 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 na. And another great technique, this is gold here, guys, is the back chaining technique. Basically, the back chaining technique consists in breaking down the sounds into pieces and parts, and then you pronounce them backwards in case of a word or in parts in case of an expression. For example, your students having a problem to pronounce beautiful. They have this problem. I can't pronounce beautiful. It's hard. So you say beautiful, 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 beautiful. Okay, then you break it down. Full, repeat, full, the student, full. Rifu, rifu, they rifu or tifu, and they say beautiful or beautiful. They say beautiful. Now I found where is the stress. So normally when they're having a problem to find where is the stress, usually in longer expressions or words, when you pronounce backwards, you give a new spin, a new view on this pronunciation, and they usually get it right the second time they repeat. So the back chaining. In case of an expression, the back chaining would be like if you want them to say, "What would you do if?" Hey, what would you do if you're talking about conditionals, for example, in a class, and they're having a problem saying, "What would you do if?" So then you can break it down. You ask them to repeat what, and they say watch, watch. You say, but you've seen series? They don't say watch. They say what? They repeat what would. And they repeat what would. And now they observe. They don't pronounce the t in what would. And then you say what would you? What would you? What would you do? What would you do? What would you do with? And they even observe where the ups and downs when you sing the language. What would you do with? And then they repeat, what would you do with? And then you can give a few changes. What would you do? What would you think? What would you say? How would you do? Or where would you invest? You can make these little alterations so the students understand the sound, understand the expression, and where and how you use it. Give a few examples. Ask them to try a few examples. Depending on what kind of correction you're trying to give, you could give a text with some tongue twisters for them to practice. Make sure that they have fun with it. They know it's supposed what is a tongue twister, and it's supposed to be hard, and you're practicing to try to find the right coordination with your mouth, the articulation of the sound. It's very important for the students to know that some certain sounds they just don't have in their language, and it gets hard. For example, I taught for many years in a Spanish school where it was conversational classes. And I just got that Spanish people can't pronounce dog. Dog. They always say dog. Dog. They put a throat sound in the dog. Okay, I got it. I start correcting one here or the other there, and I noticed they all make this mistake. So this is one classic sound that you don't have in other languages, and or maybe it's just really hard to pronounce in certain languages, like for the Brazilians, the think things through, think things through. It's a tongue twister. People practice the th sound, where it comes from. So it's very important for you to articulate this calmly, and sometimes when I'm having like this kind of classes, I get the camera closer to the students, a lot of light. This is paramount for them to see your face properly. Okay, so this is extremely important. One other tip here, guys, is to ask your students, try to find the root word. For example, you got the word knowledgeable. Do they know what is the root word? Knowledgeable. Knowledgeable. You know, you have some knowledge, you are knowledgeable. So they understand the construction of the expression. So guys, anyhow, make it natural, make it fun, make sure your students feel they are progressing, and don't forget to applaud them on this progression, and then don't forget to highlight how important it is to get the right pronunciation, the right intonation of the words. Otherwise, people won't understand you. But nonetheless, the most important part is the fluency and to get the sounds, the correct sounds, and where they go. You don't remember words, you remember sounds. So you must pronounce in the right context. If you just keep doing all day long exercises, repeating individually, at the end of the class, the student's not going to remember much from that specifically. So there are times for these corrections to happen. Make sure you find these, you analyze the students constantly. This analysis is not only in the beginning of the course and then 6 months later. You're constantly analyzing the mistakes of your student. Maybe they have a phonetic problem, with the tongue, because some people speak like that, and that's okay, people can still understand. So make sure you understand what are the difficulties of your student, so you could work specifically on those. And of course, you need to respect the individuality of each person, but make it fun, make it them motivated, and I'm pretty sure you're gonna nail that pronunciation correction. All right, so stick around for more tips here in the Tutor of Teachers. Thank you.
You only get yourself to